We want to thank you for your purchase of the Janome 550e Embroidery machine from Ken Sewing Center. You're going to get free lessons for life. This is just a brief tutorial to give you an overview and some details of this particular machine. As always, you can give us a call or drop us an email for the life you own your machine if you ever need us. Once you get your 550e out of the box, simply just attach the power cord here. There's a little on-off switch right above it. Turn it on and the machine is going to power cycle through. Your LED lights are going to come on, and this is what the home screen is going to look like. Later in the video, we'll go through all the different features of the screen and all the different computer components of the 550e. Now we're going to talk about threading the machine. The way the spool pin is on the 550e, you can use a lot of different size spools. There's several brands of thread that are available that will work with this machine. At the end of the video, we'll give you some suggestions on thread weights, types of threads, cones, and some optional accessories that you can use with the 550e. There's several different types of thread. Here we're going to use an 1100 yard cone. And that's the nice thing about this particular machine. You can use a lot of different size spools on it. You will get a little item that comes with it called a special spool holder. You'll get a couple of these with your machine. It's called a special spool holder. The manual will reference this. This just helps keep the cone from flopping around. You can thread the machine like I have it here, or to get a little bit more secure and an even feed off of the thread, we want to use this. It goes right in the end here. We'll pop it right in here. Just hand tied is all you got to do. And it holds and secures that spool and keeps it from flopping off or coming off the end of the spool. Sometimes if that comes off, your thread can get entangled or extra tension here, and that could cause you a problem down the road in the channel. So as we come off the spool pin here, you've got a couple of guides here. You can thread this through this first guide and then come around to the second. The manual will talk about threading it that way. If you do it that way, you never have to worry about that thread coming undone. Here we're going to go up under the first tab, comes up over, and then through this the second hole right here. Then I come around this guide here, and on our machine we will have arrows or threading points that will help you right along the way that's printed onto the machine. That makes it really handy. Make sure that you do have the presser foot up, because what that's going to do is release your tension discs that are here. That ensures we get our thread in the tension like we need it to. If you ever have the machine underneath what we call wad up or a duck's nest, is just a huge wad underneath, we didn't get our thread in the tension here. So I like to hold my thread here and just keep it just taut just a little bit so I can easily get into my thread guides. And I just follow that channel all the way down. Back behind my needle right here, there's a guide I need to make sure. Right in front of my needle here, there's a little guide I need to make sure I get the thread through. Get it behind this guide here. And you see number 7, we just let our thread go up over top this plastic guide. That'll help us get it into our needle threader assembly. You can come around here and rake it across the razor, and you'll snip that. Then we can engage our needle threader right here. This machine will have the top drop-in bobbin system on it, so it makes threading a breeze. I can remove the cover just by simply moving this little dial over. It pops my cover up and I remove it here. When threading the bobbin case, what you want to do is make sure that you have your thread coming off in a counterclockwise position. What you want to do when you're threading your bobbin case is have the thread come off in a counterclockwise position on the left side and insert it in the bobbin case. There's a little slit right here that you go through. Just make sure you get your thread in there, and everything's going to be channeled on this. There's a little guide right here, and all we do is just slide and follow that channel all the way around. There's a little razor here that you'll rake your thread across, and now thread the bobbin. Put the cover back on, pop it in. Now I'll be ready to put my hoop on. Your 550e will come with this large extension table. I would go ahead and put it on the machine no matter what size hoop that you're working with. This would just give support to the garment that you're working with, and it puts the machine, the embroidery unit, under less bind, and you're going to have a slit top to this, so your garment's going to slide right across it real easy. But so the more support you can get, the better off you'll be. The 550E will come with the extension table, and I would go ahead and pull this out first thing and put it on my machine. That way, no matter what hoop that you're using, it's going to support the weight of your material. Just slide right around the machine, just perfect like this. And that's all you have to do. Hooping is really easy with the Janome hoops. You're going to get 4 hoops with this machine. This is the largest, the R36. You do notice on the hoops I have these metal pieces that will come with magnetic clips. If you're hooping something like a towel or something that's awkward to hoop or quilt, you can actually use this and use magnets to attach your garment. But here we're going to use the ring that come with it. Get you a piece of fabric, stabilizer, whatever you want to do. And we'll just set the piece that we're working with right down here like so. We'll put our ring, loosening. Make sure that you loosen both of these. Make sure that you loosen both of these clamps that'll open the hoop up. Put our garment down, keeping everything straight. Then we'll put our ring on top. Make sure you're on a flat surface. This is going to make it a lot easier. We'll just gently press it down. And then I also have on the corners these little silver dials. This allows me to loosen up my material. A lot of brands does not give you this particular feature. And when you're working with the largest hoop, you're going to have more free-flowing fabric here. The hoop's bigger. It makes it a lot more difficult on some of the other brands to hoop when it comes to the big embroideries. This particular way that this machine is made, these hoops are made, it's going to make it so much easier for you hooping an item like this. You have a spring here, and I can get it just a little bit tighter. Depending on the thickness of your garment, you may have to get it tighter or looser. Now move this over, it's locked into place, and now I'm ready to embroider. Now I'm ready to attach the hoops to my embroidery unit. On our embroidery unit, we have these 2 nodules here, and on our hoops, I'll have this particular bracket system. This is going to ensure that the hoops stay on to the embroidery unit. Once it's locked, I won't have to worry about it popping off. So as I insert this onto the nodules, I want to make sure I press this lever down this way to unlock it. On our hoops, you'll see where it says unlock or lock. Make sure you've got it in the unlock position. I want to make sure my presser foot is raised up. I slide my hoop under it. I get everything lined up here. I unlock it, pop it on, and now that hoop is not coming off and I'm ready to embroider. Our presser foot lift lever is on the back side of the machine, just like a traditional sewing machine. You can raise and lower that presser foot with this lever on the front of my machine. I will have my start stop button. When it's green, if I press the button, it's ready to go. And I can have my thread trimmed at any given time. And the machine has programmed in it certain places between thread colors. It's going to snip the thread for you and move on. But if I want to thread cut, I can do that anytime that I want to. If you want to wind your own bobbins, you can with the bobbin winder that's built on top of the machine. Winding bobbins is very easy to do on the 550. However, there are a lot of pre-wound bobbins on the market that you can get for winded bobbins. You're going to find the Mineracraft 550E is going to be very easy to operate. When we turn our machine on, this is going to be our default home page. Anytime you're within your machine and you need to go back home, you can always press the little button. It looks like a house. Here is going to be my built-in embroidery designs. These are the built-in alphabet fonts, and this is my edit mode. So to select an embroidery design, just simply press right there. And I can go in on the screen and do quite a bit. This allows me to select all the different types of designs that's on the machine. There's going to be 4 full pages of design. We hit this right arrow to arrow over. We'll have anything from Shishiko designs. We can calibrate there. Here I have some applique, some in the hoop patterns our book will refer to. Different designs that Janome gives you, and they give you over 180 built in. So I'll select the designs that I want to do, and it's going to default to a certain hoop. Here is where I change the hoop. You'll get 4 hoops that comes with the machine. Here I have the SQ14, SQ20B, and it gives me in inches the sizes of the hoops that I'm working with. So depending on the garment that I'm working with, you want to try to size the hoop to the design that you're doing. What that's going to achieve for you is going to save you a lot of money on stabilizer. If I can keep my design, the size of that design, to the closest size hoop, I've got less free flowing fabric in my hoop, and I'm going to get less stabilizer that I'm going to need, and then the likelihood of that design puckering is going to be quite a bit less doing it that way. So I select the hoop that I want, and I can choose from 11 different pages of all these different designs. And I can just scroll through the design, and in your manual it will show you a full planogram of all the designs that are built in. If you want to use those designs, you're able to easily pull those up. There's some alphabets that are built in. On the 550e, it gives me messages to select, and on my screen I'm going to have quite a bit of information for each particular design, which is very helpful. It reminds me again what hoop I have on it. All the 550e hoops will have a letter indented into them, so you can reference and know exactly which hoop you're selecting and what hoop you're putting on your embroidery machine. So I let the machine know what hoop that I have on. Here it's telling me that. It's showing me exactly how large this design is going to be, how many colors are in this design. I have my machine set at 600 stitches per minute. You can adjust that on the hard drive of the machine, and it tells me how many minutes are in my design. It's got my tension automatically set for me. It does show me in full color what this design is going to look like. Now, whoever digitized the design, they're going to assign colors here. As time goes on in your machine journey, you may want to add optional software to create your own designs. The digitizer is who assigns colors to a design. So because I know what portion of the design I'm going to be embroidering, if I want it to be a different color, I can thread up a different color, and the machine's not going to know what color thread I have on it, but you're going to know as the embroiderer what color that you have at any particular time. It shows me right here my number of stitches and where I'm at within my stitch count. So the first thread I'm going to thread up is going to be this darker color, which is basically going to be anything you see here in black. That's what the machine is going to be embroidering first. So if I want these leaves to be a different color, I can thread up a different color here, and I'm ready to go. So you can reference on page 23 of your instruction manual what we're talking about as far as selecting your designs. All the different themes, the categories of designs are going to be located in that particular section. Where we select our hoop is going to be located on page 24. Then we're going to go back and we'll show you some of the monogramming. So anytime I want to go back, I just hit my little arrow here, and then I can exit out of the designs right here. Now I can select and go back to my designs. Here I can fast forward through my stitch count. So let's say that we have a thread break. The machine's going to automatically stop. We can back up 10 stitches, 100 stitches, and you can embroider over it, and nobody's going to know. It's not going to be visible that you had to embroider, or there was a thread breakage, or maybe you ran out of bobbin thread and you've got to take your hoop off, rethread the bobbin, and then you've got to go back to the embroidery. Or if you're in the middle of a project and somebody accidentally turns a machine off, or you have a power failure, don't worry. All you have to do, make sure you do not take your fabric out of your hoop. Keep the fabric, keep it hooped up just like it is, because we can pull that design right back up. We can fast forward here through the stitch count, and I can fast forward through the color count. So I pull this up, I know what stitch I'm on. I can go right back to the stitch if I want to go to that precise stitch, or I can back up here and I can fast forward. The machine will automatically move my embroidery carriage, and I will know very closely where I'm at because I have this black crosshair here. I can go through my design, it'll automatically go through the design for me, and I can get right back to where I left off, and you continue on embroidering. That way you do not have to redo the entire design or ruin a garment. Here I can hit the adjust key if I need to adjust the tension. This is something I would urge you to rarely go into. Most of the time when you're having a tension issue, it's a stabilizing issue, a threading issue, or you've got a needle issue. This would be the last thing that I would do. If you're having problems with your design puckering or the bobbin thread showing or something to that effect, be sitting in front of your machine and pick up the phone, give us a call. We can walk you through things over the phone to keep you from having to do this. If you decide you do want to change this, make a note of the default setting on the machine where it was set at before you start changing the tension setting. You can change here the length in millimeters of the tail that when the machine cuts the stitch if you want to. I would leave it at the 2. The default setting is the recommended setting. And then I'll hit OK. If you want to move the hoop back to the home where it normally stays, you can hit the hoop back key. Here it's going to tell me to raise my presser foot, make sure the needle's in the highest position, and you're going to take your hoop off, and then it's going to set it back to the home or the resting position. Now we're going to talk about the edit mode. Now we're going to go into the edit mode. Push this button here, it looks like a grid system. The edit mode is a nice feature to have. Not every brand gives you an edit mode. This represents the embroidery field of the particular hoop you have selected. So we have the 7.9 by 7.9 inch hoop selected. Keep in mind this is going to be the external perimeter of the embroidery field that you can work with. And this grid system helps us keep things aligned. This is actually going to be the center of the hoop. If we want to change our hoop size, again, you want to try to get the hoop size to the design you're working with. Here is where I push to select all the hoops that are available. Now there are some hoops that you'll see on the screen that does not come standard with the 550e. That's another nice thing about the model you've chosen. There are a lot of optional accessories available for it, different size hoops. Ken Sewing Center will carry other hoops as well that's not made by Janome, but all these we're going to show you on screen are made by Janome. If you have questions about any hoop or any accessory, feel free to reach out to us and we'll be glad to help you with anything that you have need of. So once we select the hoop that we want to work with, now I'm ready to go. All I have to do now, if I want to add a design, I'm able to go back and add my designs at this point. I go back and hit my home key. If I want to choose designs that are built into the hard drive of the machine, I can do that here. I will pull up a design here. And at this point, I can drop and drag this design anywhere that I want. There's a little green square around my design. I can press that if I want to put this in the top quadrant. If I'm wanting to build a scene, I'm able to do that just by going back to the home. If I want to add an alphabet, I'm able to do that here. We're going to do an uppercase letter, and then we'll do a lowercase letter. If this is how I want it to look, I'll hit OK. And then I can drag this anywhere that I want to. I can continue to fill up my hoop with designs with no problem whatsoever. On page 37, we'll talk about all the different editing. This is my edit bar down below the edit mode. So I have an arrow I can page over, and I have all these different functions built into my machine. You will find the tools built into this machine are very numerous. You're not going to have to go to a computer. You're not going to have optional software. All this is built into the hard drive of the machine. So this is my first selection, which is selecting the size hoop that I want to do. We'll have it selected the SQ14. There are optional hoops available for this machine, and Ken's will carry all of them. We can help you with any optional hoop that's available. There's other hoops on the market that you can get to use with the 550e. Feel free to give us a call. We can definitely tell you what hoops are compatible with your machine. So once we have that selected, our next selection is going to be a duplicate key or a copy paste key. If I want to copy and paste this butterfly, whatever's in green is what it's going to be affecting. I can hit the button one time and it copies it, and then I can move this over and I can continue to fill up my embroidery hoop. So why would I want to use this? Let's say that I'm wanting to hoop up a sheet of sewing wash, which is a stabilizer that you use when making Christmas ornaments or bookmarkers. You embroider into the stabilizer. If I want to do several of these at one time, it's a great little gift, especially at Christmas time. I'm making Christmas ornaments. I can get in a metallic thread and I'm embroidering to the stabilizer. I can do several at a time and I'm ready to go with that. So I have the copy paste feature. If I don't need to paste, I can actually go to my delete feature, which is the little garbage can, and I'm able to do that. Our selection number 9 is going to be a resize key. If I need to resize the design that I'm working with, I can do it down here, and I can size up or size down a certain percentage from the original. If I get it like I want, I'll hit OK, and then I'm ready to do that. And then I can page over to my next selection, a rotate key. I can rotate that design in 1 degree, 45 degree increments. and I just continue on in a 360-degree increment, I can get it exactly where I want it within 1 degree. So that is precision built into the hard drive of this machine. We'll have a vertical flip and I have a horizontal flip. So every design that's built in, I can change that around with no problem at all. This key here, if I'm working with an alphabet font, I can actually array it over or underneath something. So to go back and add fonts, I can go here, type in my name, hit OK. It plops it back on this screen, and then I can hit my array feature. I can array underneath or I can array over top and get it set like I want. If I need to space that out some, I can stretch it out, and if this is to my liking, I can move it wherever I want to, and once I get it set like I want, I hit OK, and now this design will be set just like I have it. Here I can save a design to the hard drive of my machine. If you're doing designs over and over again, you do have the ability to save a few designs onto your hard drive. That depends on the size and the megabytes of design that you're wanting to save. Here's my custom color button. I can change the color of this to a certain color to see how it's going to look before I embroider it out. And then I can see the entire design hitting the color group key. So if I need to change that up, just to see kind of how it'll look before I make my thread selections. Now I'm ready to embroider that design out. On page 47 through 53, we'll talk about all the different types of designs that are built in to the 550e. You can page over, go through that section on your instruction manual. It'll talk about all the different types of designs, what they're used for. They even have some in the hoop designs that are built in. You can make these little dolls on the machine, a great little gift giving guide. And it's easy for me to select that design, whatever that I'm wanting to do. If I want to do these little wing designs, that's all built in to my machine. I have 3 pages of these built in. On the right hand side of my machine are our major machine settings. I can go into the hard drive of the 550 and change quite a bit. There are some other tutorials that are built in as well. So we've already talked about the home button. This takes me back to the main page when I turn my machine on, where I have my embroidery designs, my letters, and the embroidery edit mode built in. I can go to set if I want to change some of the things that's built in to the hard drive of the machine. I have some customized machine settings here that I can go through. This first selection here looks like a picture of a machine with a wrench. This is our common setting mode. You can find this on page 54 of your instruction manual. This gives me things like the screen contrast. If I want to change that, if that background color of my screen is not pleasing to my eyes, I can change that. And there's all different types of colors built in. You can get that set to what works for you. Here's where I can adjust the volume of the machine. If I want it to be silenced, I can go all the way to 0 and turn it off. Or if I want it to be louder, I'm able to do that here. I can change the machine to read in inches or in metrics. Your machine will come with it in the metrics mode to begin with. You can change that to inches. Down here below, notice I have 4 pages of settings within the common settings mode. And page over, if I want to, there's times I'm going to have to recalibrate my screen. It should be a long time before you have to do that. So why would I have to calibrate my screen? Sometimes our icons on the machine, just by normal use, normal vibration, those may get off. You may see an icon like this yes here, and I press it and it doesn't do anything. Well, we need to recalibrate our screen. Here's where I'm going to format a USB stick. Now, the way the Janome machines are made, it's going to actually format your USB stick first. Now, if you have a USB stick dedicated for your embroidery, we definitely recommend doing that, because what it's going to do is going to erase everything on your USB stick. You want to make sure all you have on this particular stick is Janome embroidery designs. So whatever's on there is going to be erased. So when I plug in my USB stick, the machine is going to give me the ability right here, hit that little button. It's going to erase everything on that. It'll give you a little prompt to remind you that everything, all the data on here is going to be erased. We'll hit OK, and it's going to go through the motions of placing a folder, and it'll be called EMB. So when we save our designs to the USB stick, remember there's an EMB folder. Those have to be saved within that EMB folder. That is what the machine is reading from. And now I've formatted the USB stick. It's as simple as that. Here is my screensaver. We can set that all the way up to 30 minutes or down to nothing. Turn it off. I have sensors on the machine. I have lights on the machine I can turn on and off. And I do have where I can turn everything, all the buttons that may beep, I can turn those on and off. Here, every so often, there's sensors in the bobbin case area that will remind you. We'll have natural lint buildup from our bobbin and from our top thread. We can turn that on or off. I would recommend leaving that on. Periodically, you want to clean that out anyway. In your manual, we'll talk about maintenance. It'll talk about oiling later on. If we want to change our background color, we can do that right here. If the background doesn't please our eyes, we can do that. And as time goes on, maybe you just want to reset everything back to the factory settings. We can hit yes right there and it'll do it. Now I can go in and select my embroidery settings. Touch that button and it goes into the embroidery mode, shows me my tension. It will show me the remaining bobbin thread that is left. Now we're going to change our embroidery settings. So if I want to go in, I rarely would recommend changing the tension setting. If you're having a problem with tension, a lot of times it's a stabilizing issue. It could be a thread issue, maybe threading or the type of thread you're using or the type of bobbin thread that you're using. Feel free to call us if you have questions on setting tension, or maybe if you're having loose or too tight of thread. In your embroidery, you can make those adjustments first before trying to do anything to the machine. We can and change the sensors on the machine. It lets us know when we're getting low on our bobbin thread. You're going to have your hoop up. You're not going to be able to see your bobbin. The machine will measure that for you and let you know when you're getting low on the bobbin thread so that you can make that change as needed. Here I can adjust the speed of the machine. I can go all the way up. Now we're going to make changes to the embroidery section. On our tension, we have it set to auto tension. I would recommend leaving it on auto tension. If you're having a problem with your thread, whether it's looping or too tight, pick up the phone and give us a call, because sometimes it could be a thread issue, a threading issue. It could be your bobbin thread. It could be the stabilizers that you're using for the type of material you're working with. We can adjust our remaining bobbin thread sensor. The machine will tell us when we're getting low on bobbin thread, because many times we're not able to see our bobbin while we're in embroidery mode. The machine will automatically pick that up for us. I can page over here. If I want to change my selection on the speed of the machine, I can go all the way up to 860 stitches per minute, or I can slow that down all the way to 400 stitches per minute. Keep in mind, with embroidery, the slower you embroider, generally the better stitch quality you're going to have. Recommended stitch setting here is going to be 600 stitches per minute. We can have the machine and change the one stitch. We can have the machine change the one stitch stop. And what is that? When this function is turned on, the machine sews one stitch and then stops automatically so that you can bring up the bobbin thread before you're sewing. You can turn that on or off. Here we can change and turn on or off our consecutive color grouping. What is consecutive color grouping? If we have, say, a 30 color design and black is called for 10 times and white's called for 5 times, it'll group those together for me so I'm not having to rethread as much on the machine. That's a handy feature to have on a machine. Shows me what hoop that I have on the machine. I would recommend leaving that on, and we can recalibrate the hoop at any given time. Its hoop confirmation will show me what particular hoop that I have on the machine when I'm ready to sew, or I also can go to hoop calibration, and what that is, it takes me back to the center of that particular hoop every time. Now I'll go to page 4. This talks about thread cutting. The machine will cut the jump stitches for me between color changes. It allows me to do that. I can turn that off or on. I can change the length of that thread cutting in millimeters here. I can change it to cut at the end of a color change. All those you can play with. Here is my thread selection. There are several brands of popular brands built into the machine with their particular color codes and their color names. So if I want to select, and I like using So if I want to, here on my thread selection, I can change and look at all the different brands of thread. These are very popular brands that's on the market. If you do not see your brand here, you can use the eyeball test and just match that up. But some people do like using a certain brand of thread. The color codes are built in here so we can see and reference exactly what color for this particular brand. There's several brands of thread on the market that's going to work with the machine just fine. Feel free to give us a call if you need help picking out the right weight of thread for the project you're doing or the right brand of thread. Here I can change in my embroidery edit if I want grid lines or not and how big those grid lines are apart. This is the resume mode if I get to the end or if I'm in the middle of a design or if there's a certain design I've been working with. The next time I pull and turn the machine back on, it may tell me to go to I want to use the same design I was just working with. That way we can pull that same design back up and continue embroidering on. And then finally, I can change languages. The default will be to English, but there's several languages built into the machine. Once I get everything set like I want, I hit OK, and the machine will save all that for me to the hard drive. There are tutorials built in to the 550e that you can go and you can see different tutorial diagrams of how to thread, how to wind the bobbin. You have several pages of each one of these that's going to be built into the machine. This will never change. These are things you're going to be using quite often on the machine. If we have a design that's built into the hard drive of the machine, and I don't have any on it right now, but if I had some built into the hard drive, this is where I open those designs up. This button here is my lock button. If you have little ones around or you don't want anyone getting into your machine while you get up to move, you can lock the machine. If any button I press, the machine is not going to operate, it's not going to do anything. Then when you come back to the machine, you can unlock it, and now I'm ready to access the rest of my machine and continue embroidering. Pages 63 through 70 of your manual will talk about cleaning out, maintenance, oiling your machine. There's diagrams built in that's going to show you all that. You can feel free to pick up the phone and give us a call if you need to know about oiling your machine. There is a wick built in to the 550 right under our handle that we can access the wick of the machine and keep that oiled properly. Don't want too much oil, just enough to keep the machine operating at its optimal performance. With the purchase of your 550e, you're going to get a lot of accessories right out of the box. Janome gives you 4 of the most popular size embroidery hoops. They will show you a little bit about the hoops so you get an understanding of just what all you can do with your machine. Your machine does a maximum embroidery area of 7.9 by 14 inches. The hoop's going to be just a little bit larger than that. You will have a buffer zone that's going to be built into the machine. When we tell the machine what hoop we have on it, it's going to know automatically. If I have it set for RE36, that will be printed on your template and also on the hoop itself. The templates are really nice, and what it's going to allow you to do, if you go into embroidery edit mode and you have your hoop selected, you'll notice there's a grid system on the embroidery edit mode. The templates are set up as a grid system. We can go to center here, and then I'd have my left and right top quadrant, and then I have my bottom left and right quadrant. We can maneuver our designs in a way if we've got a shirt we're hooping, there's a pocket in the way, or we want to make sure we get precise placement of our embroideries, you can use the template. As time goes on and you get used to your machine, you may not require the templates any longer. Those will come standard with all the 550e hoops. You'll get the 7.9 by 14 hoop, you'll get the 7.9 by 7.9, you'll get the 5.5 by 5.5, and then you get the 5.5 by 7.9 hoop standard. There are optional hoops that we'll talk about at the end that you can get for the machine. There's also a lot of other accessories that we'll go over that will be included with your machine. On the largest hoop, you'll notice there's some metal strips here. They are included magnets that will allow us, if we're hooping a garment that's thick like a beach towel, or maybe there's a garment that's causing you a problem, meaning there's something in the way, a pocket or a seam, or maybe it's just a little bit too thick for the hoops to be able to handle. You can put your garment over top here, and these magnets will pop right in here, and then I can actually hoop my garment without having to worry about the inner ring and the outer ring, and use the magnets to position the garments where I want to. There are other specialty stabilizers you can get for doing certain projects. Ken's carries everything that's made for these machines. We actually have lines of stabilizer we have manufactured. We can help you find the correct stabilizer for the project that you're doing. Sometimes all you need is just a stabilizer or a different type of thread for the project that you're doing. So never hesitate to touch base with us on all the accessories for the machine, because we can definitely help you with that. On each hoop you have the locking mechanism. That's another great thing about the 550e that you purchased. Once you get this locked on, that hoop is not coming off. These are really easy to use. We do carry all the standard hoops as well. Sometimes you may be doing several shirts of the same design in a row, where you can have one hooped up and be hooping another garment while this is embroidering, increasing your efficiency. You also will get the extra large table that's included. It's made to fit right around the left side of the machine. This is great to have for any hoop. It will support the weight of your material so that the embroidery unit is not weighed down. It's going to help you get a better quality stitch on your designs, and you do not have to worry about ruining a garment. There are a lot of accessories that comes with the machine. One question we get quite often is the extra bobbin case. We recommend a 40 weight embroidery thread, but if you're using other brands of thread, sometimes you may have to go with the high tension embroidery bobbin case that's included with the machine. Recommend trying the thread you're working with. On the bobbin case, it's already included in the machine. It has a tension set differently than this one. If you need help adjusting your tension on your bobbin case, pick up the phone and give us a call, because we can help you set that for the type of thread that you're working with. You will get a pack of needles that will come with it. Do notice the needle system that's on the needles. This one takes a HAX1SP needle. That is your needle system. We'll carry all different sizes of needles, but you have included the two most popular sizes, size 11 and size 14. Janome also markets a blue tip and a red tip needle, and that will allow you to do any type of garment and virtually any type of embroidery thread that's on the market. You also will get extra bobbins, scissors, screwdrivers, and things for basic maintenance. Here's a good sampling of some of the most popular optional accessories that you may need as you continue to grow. What we recommend: get your machine, get the very basics, threads, needles, stabilizers you need to get started. Then as time goes on, if you need optional accessories, Ken's can help you find and pick out the right item for the job or the project or your need. First thing you want to look at is your needles, bobbins, and stabilizer. On the Janome machines, Janome has two different types of needles manufactured for their machine. You'll have the blue tip size 11 and the red tip size 14. The size 11 is used for stretchier or lighter weight materials. The size 14 you can get into lighter cottons up into denim. Or if you're using a metallic thread, we recommend using the size 14. Now, I get questions a lot is, how often do I need to change my needle? Some people think every design. I recommend, and this is going to be something that's going to take you a little bit of time, but as that needle is hitting your fabric, you're going to notice when the needle gets duller. You can definitely hear a pop, pop, pop sound on your fabric. That means your needle's getting a little bit duller. Just like when you buy a new car or a new appliance, you start noticing when it sounds a little bit different. Normal lint buildup, normal things in the bobbin case, whether it be lint, dust builds up, you start noticing a little bit different sound of how the machine operates. Same way with the needles. The louder your machine will sew or embroider, you'll notice that sound hitting the fabric. Some fabrics will dull your needle quicker than others. Lighter weight materials like t-shirts, polo shirts, stretchy material, they're going to be less damaging on a needle versus going into heavier cottons, or if you're doing something like denim, that's going to dull a needle quicker than anything. So if you feel like you're having problems with thread tension or your stitch quality, changing your needle a lot of times is something we would recommend doing, and that's very inexpensive. The second thing I want to recommend to you is your thread. We recommend 100% polyester, a 40 weight. There are other threads on the market that are very good brands of thread. Feel free to call us. We can help you with the right brand, the right weight. But there's a lot of companies making 1100 yard spools. And then if you find a color you use more often, you can get a 5,500 yard spool. Now, these 1,100 yard spools will fit on the machine. The larger ones will not. You can have to get a spool stand. And Janome does make two different spool stands to work on their machine. It actually will screw right into the back side of the machine. We have the 2 spool stand for the bigger cones of thread, and then we also will have a 5 spool stand where you can stage 5 colors at a time and these smaller spools, and you can put a couple of the bigger ones on the 5 spool stand. The next thing I want to recommend to you is the type of bobbin thread that you're working with. When you're doing embroidery, you will need a different type of thread. It's just simply called embroidery bobbin thread. This will be a lighter weight thread than the top threads you have on your needles. Generally a 60 weight to a 90 weight. The higher the number, the finer or the lighter the weight. The lower the number, the heavier that thread will be. So your 40 weight regular thread is what you'll have on top. Your embroidery thread on top is heavier. The 100% polyester is treated, so the colors are not going to fade. You won't have to worry about that. You can wash this many, many times, and also you won't have any problem from the elements or the sun degrading the color. On the bobbin thread, you don't have to match colors to color. White and black is the only 2 colors we ever carry. 90% of the time, if the design is digitized correctly, you can use the white. But sometimes on darker fabrics, say a dark brown, navy blue, or black, you may want to purchase and have on hand black embroidery bobbin thread. That just helps that bobbin thread not show if the design is digitized incorrectly or there's some thin places in the design. The next thing that you'll need to do your embroidery is embroidery stabilizer. Now this is where it probably gives most people problems because there's so many different types. Ken's can help you find the correct stabilizer for the job that you're doing. Definitely would recommend starting out, you want to practice. Get you an old piece of fabric, something that doesn't matter, maybe a t-shirt or something that you know you're going to be doing this type of fabric more often than not, and then get you a roll of tearaway. Tearaway tears out from the back side when you're finished. Generally this is going to be the easiest for you to work with, and that's where we want to start you out, is very easy. Not necessarily tearaway is the best quality, but most of the time, depending on what you're doing, a tearaway is going to handle the job for you, and when you're finished, the excess that's on the back side of the embroidery, you can tear it out very easily, no problem at all. Your cutaway is going to be the best quality stabilizer, and there's different weights of the cutaway as well depending on what you're doing. But when you're finished embroidering on the cutaway, you actually will get your scissors and trim out the excess stabilizer on the back side. If you have someone that has sensitive skin, be careful of the type of stabilizer that you use, because that is what's going to be rubbing up against their skin. You may need a lighter weight or a softer type of stabilizer. We can help you pick that out as well for the type of job that you're doing. If you're using something like a cap frame, or maybe you've got a garment that's very awkward to hoop, like a thick towel, sometimes you just cannot get those in the hoops. A peeling stick is what we would recommend for something like that. The peeling stick has a sticky on the top. It's almost like peeling a sticker back. And then the stabilizer is underneath it. So whatever you're doing, we'll actually put this under the bottom side of the hoop so the sticky is pointing upward. And then our garment, we're going to press down on the hoop. So if we're using a cap frame, I'd have my sticky with the stickies right here pointing up, and I can press down the area of the cap that I'm working with. So you can do baseball caps with your 550E, you just need to purchase the cap frame. And then lastly, the water-soluble topping is a very popular stabilizer. If you have any garment that you're working with that has a texture to it, maybe it has some fluff to it, like a beach towel or a hand towel, you'll need this stabilizer. It's a clear, almost looks like a clear plastic, and you'll put it on top of your garment, and then you'll have a tearaway or cutaway on the bottom side of your garment. You're going to stitch through the water-soluble topping into the towel, into the stabilizers underneath. So this raises your stitches up above the nap of a towel and keeps it from burying down into it, so your design will look perfectly every time. On your embroidery threads, we will have all different kinds of variety of starter kits. We carry hundreds and hundreds of different colors, and we carry several brands. So we'll recommend for what you're wanting the type and the correct brand of thread as well. As time goes on with your 550E, you may want to do other things on the software side. Here we have the Janome Artistic Digitizing software. We will have this on the website. The Artistic Digitizer is going to be the software you'll need for creating your own designs. If you want to draw a design out yourself, you're able to do that, make logos, do custom work with your machine. This will save to the Janome format. There are over 60 tutorials that Janome has done for this software. So once you get this home, you're going to be able to use the software and you can back up over and over again with the tutorials. And there are many, many more optional accessories. These are just the most popular that we wanted to show you. Some of the basic things that you may need. The main thing is we stress many, many times, you have us for the life that you own your machine. The reason we're doing this tutorial is we want you to be able to use your machine and have fun with it. That's what you purchased it for. And we want to be here to help you. So for the life you own your machine, feel free to drop us a phone call or give us an email. We'll have that going across the bottom of the tutorial that you always have that number handy or our email handy if you ever need us.